Hello everyone and welcome to a new video interview for Jogonet Gaming News. Today we are joined by brothers Ben and Ari Fox, producers for the CEC Live conference, which brings together the online and land-based gaming industry together with the esports segment. A new edition of the CEC Live conference, formerly known as the Casino Esports Conference, is actually taking place in Atlantic City on October 18 this year. And also today, CEC Live has announced dates with Native American-backed host sponsor Agua Caliente Casinos for a new CEC edition for March 19 next year in California. So we have a lot to discuss this time around. Well, first of all, Ben, Ari, thank you so much for joining us today. And
thanks for having us, Rodrigo. Appreciate that.
Well, perhaps the first question to start this interview could be, what is new and significant about these two editions, and how will they compare to the previous ones?
I think, well, what's new is we're in another, you know, the economy or the esports side of it, I think, is in the mainstream news, not in our circle, but in the mainstream news, the esports bubble has popped and the investment has dried up like it has in a lot of different areas. But I think the overall focus of the event that we're having in Atlantic City and in Agua at Palm Springs is that the topic of what's next is really what we're trying to focus on in the casino industry. There are competitors that are doing the same as well, but we want to really delve more into high-tech entertainment opportunities and how do you integrate that into a gambling space.
And Ben, what is your take on this, and why is esports important right now?
Well, you know, first of all, trying to get a new source of entertainment in the casino industry that is relevant to the new players is imperative. So, you know, we've been at this for a while. I know you know that. I mean, it's been 8 years, and through that time, we've watched, you know, the progression, or I should say regression of what's been happening out there in the market. People have tried a bunch of things, skill-based machines, things like that, in order to integrate into the casino industry. But they haven't really, you know, dug deep enough to grab a good handle on what they're able to do as far as this entertainment goes. So as we continue forward and we keep producing these shows to get people together, we also present them with all the opportunities that they can utilize in their properties today. I mean, in some jurisdictions, you're able to do esport wagering, well, in New Jersey specifically, which is one of the reasons why we have our event there with our host property Resorts, who happens to be the very first casino that actually ever opened in Atlantic City, New Jersey. So it's fitting that we have the CEC Live there because, once again, you know, it's groundbreaking. We also have the same thing happening here in California in the Coachella Valley at Agua Caliente in Rancho Mirage in March, okay, 19th. And so that also is really kind of unique because it's the first time in which a Native American casino actually is standing up and not just, you know, having the event, but they're actually really involved in it, in the sense that they've been themselves running tournaments weekly, Wednesday nights, to you know, sort of engage the new audience and experiment with it. But they've learned a lot, and it is a pretty successful thing for them. So now they're ready to share it with all their other, Native American tribes that are also looking for some entertainment that is going to be very, very relevant to them. It already is, but within the casino world, it's being a little slower to adapt, but it's out there.
One important thing to ask you guys is, what are the main issues and discussions driving the agenda of the esports and video gaming world now, and how will they be highlighted at these new editions of CEC Live? We have a really stacked lineup of speakers. I understand that these conferences will go very in-depth on what the new esports segment is offering. And well, in this context, what is important also for us is what opportunities does this growing space offer to casinos? One of the things that you, Ben, highlighted was bringing a new audience to casinos. So now going more in detail about this, the main discussions taking place, and how does this new segment affect casinos?
Well, I could probably answer that. So one of the main things I think that the casinos want, or that they understand, even the online wagering platforms like sports wagering and iGaming, their main focus has been and always will be the current games that they offer today, the current types of wagering they offer today. And as long as they're making money on those things, everything else doesn't really matter, because it's if it ain't broke, why fix it? So what we hear in the news and what you see on videos and things like that, you're really only scratching the surface of really what's happening below the surface. And most C-list executives and companies will always just sort of glide along that surface, and if things are fine, then no problem. If things start to become an issue, they have to go under the surface to find out what's under there that they can find, that they can implement into their offerings. And we're coming to that juncture. We're coming to that point in the casino industry where their offerings currently are going the ways of being outdated. So what is this, the CEC, and what you're in response to your question in regard to esports is, on the surface, everyone knows or has read articles about this esports team going bankrupt, that esport team folding. This doesn't work, that doesn't work. This arena was built, but it's got to close. So we've only heard as of late the decline or the problem or the bubble popping, as I said earlier, of the esports thing. But there is ways to make money there. There is ways to leverage what is the next offering to a younger demographic. But, and if you talk to any C-list executive and you're talking about esports or even anything new, skill-based gaming, they're like, young people have no money. But if you look at some of their answer then to instead of talking about esports and technology is sports wagering. Okay, great. So we have sports wagering. But as I've mentioned to many people, I've been on many panels where the moderator will ask the panel, who are all sports wagering people, when is sports wagering going to start making money? Because it's not making the kind of money they really want it to make. So the question in my head is, I don't know if it ever will, because the younger demographics are not interested in that. However, esports is still below 1% of any wager platform. And the reason is because there's a disconnect between the industry, the gambling industry, not understanding what the younger generations are looking for, how to integrate with them, how to give them what they're looking for, what they like to do, and what they enjoy doing. There are some casinos that are beginning to understand it. And the one that we're having our event in March, the Agua Caliente, they're already on track. They're patient. They've been having Super Smash Brother tournaments every week, every Wednesday night. This is how you open that door, and you say, let's try something new. And that's why one of the reasons why we're having.
Yeah, it's the understanding it's not a turnkey. It's not like a turnkey business where you just one day you open up and you're all about esports. It's a little bit, and I don't think any casino offering is like that. I mean, everything in the past has been in stages or steps or tests in the market. They're expecting a lot from just this portion of the business to just open up and blow out the doors. And a lot of times the approach is what is holding them back, because they're expecting it to be like any other wagering product, when there is math to it, but it's not gaining the audience, retaining the audience, everything else like that. It exists, it's out there, there's a way for them to do it, but it seems as almost if they don't have the patience to let that happen. And like Ari explained, the Agua Caliente, they actually are doing that, and they realize that it's a very long-term thing. And I'll give you a quick breakdown of a couple of things here. I read something the other day. I'm probably going to work on making an article about it, but it has to do with baseball. And I looked up some stats on the different groups regarding baseball. And we also noticed, as Ari said before, there's a lot of handwriting on the wall. When you start seeing, I didn't mean to switch on you, but I'll get back to it in a second. But when you start seeing all kinds of other offerings like football and, car racing and giant eyeball globes and things like that to attract people to Las Vegas, you have to wonder, are they changing something up here? Yeah, obviously they are, because the big bubble that they had, or the big gains where everybody got money from the government and then just went happy and spent it in Las Vegas, is just that. So, now they realize that they need to entertain these crowds another way. But it's wonderful that they're building a baseball stadium, but I'm just going to give you a quick stat here. It was in this, and it's called Statista. Okay, I looked it up, and it basically, the title says, "Okay, Boomer, go watch baseball." Okay, so just taking that as a snapshot, you see that 65% of baby boomers are into baseball. Whereas Gen X, which followed baby boomers, which is 1965 to 79, 57% of them are into baseball. And you keep going down the line and you see that 44% of millennials, 44, less than half of the population of millennials are even caring about baseball. And then you go even further with 36% of Gen Z. So it's an obvious decline in their viewership and everything else like that. Now what do? Well, those people are doing something else. They're involved in another activity. And if the casino industry thinks that they're going to convert these people into something else, that's not the case. I mean, when we were kids, we played in Little League, we were in baseball, it was part of what we had. These guys are playing video games. So, that's not going to go away. They're going to continue to do that. So how do you take something that they already are really well engaged in and monetize it? That's what we're talking about. And that is actually what we're working towards at both events. But that's just a small snapshot of just one portion. But in general, it's really kind of more of the bigger problem, which is they're losing audience in traditional sports, and they can pick it up in a different way. So, that gives you a little bit of insight there.
Well, certainly it is an exciting debate how to monetize this segment and the growing audience that it has. And well, so far we have seen some isolated cases of the gaming industry going after the esports segment. Well, one case is that of host state New Jersey, where the next edition of the CEC will take place. And a state that has recently passed a law extending online gaming for 5 more years, and which has sort of embraced esports betting as an option. But my question would be, does esports, or as you and the gamer community call it, e-gaming, have a place alongside iGaming, and how can it be integrated into current platforms?
I can take that. So I think e-gaming is a term it's been used, but my brother has been, and I guess, have been using it more or less to define that other sector in the gambling space, to differentiate it between the iGaming platform, the sports wagering, brick and mortar, and now e-gaming. So e-gaming as a whole can either live on its own, and I know of examples of companies that are already doing that. In other words, they are themselves the pioneers of going back 20 years or so with the internet gaming, iGaming. They are companies that are pioneers now of the e-gaming space, and that space has peer-to-peer wagering online, that has esports wagering on others that are professionally sanctioned, esports sanctioned events, collegiate esport matches. Because that's, I think, when you talk about that bubble again in regards to esports in the professional levels, that burst. But I see a grassroots building on the college levels of esports in the United States. So there could be wagering on that as well. So there is this, opportunity there. And can e-gaming be part of iGaming? Absolutely, which is what the CEC is discussing. Can you offer something for a younger group of people on your online casino? Can you offer something for a younger group of people on your sports wagering app? And does it have to be actual wagering, or can it be a peer-to-peer kind of idea? So there's opportunity there. It's engaging that community the correct way, and understanding that community will come into your business and want to be part of your community when you show that you're part of their community. And I think that there's opportunity. It is actual viable money-making space, like iGaming and like brick and mortar.
Yeah, Ari mentioned that we are starting to do this more. Hopefully people will pick it up and see the distinction, but using the word e-gaming, which is, like he said, it's not a new term. It's been a term that's been used by the video game industry since its conception. So for them, that is where they see it. You talk to somebody in video gaming and you tell them about iGaming, they don't even know what that word is. It doesn't exist to them because it's it's foreign. It was created within the casino industry, but it doesn't, outside of the casino industry, there really isn't any. It's a made up fake word for anybody outside of it. So, and when we use the term e-gaming, that applies to them and working together with the casino industry. So there are a lot of similarities, like Ari said, but there are differences. The approach is different. The marketing is different. Those things are different. But if you boil it down to like the action, yes, you have, e-gaming happens online, which is what iGaming does. Okay. It can also happen in brick and mortar because it is the same. But unlike iGaming, e-gaming can live in brick and mortar. So it actually lives in two worlds. iGaming, not so much. I mean, you're really confined only to the online space as it is. But e-gaming incorporates tournaments and things like that that are live. So it's more encompassing. So I strongly recommend that people start using that term, because in working with the gaming industry, and I mean, when I mean gaming, I mean video gaming, we have to make sort of a distinction here. They need to start speaking their language as well, because if they don't, then the participation sort of falls apart a little. And that's what Ari and I are, it's our mission to bridge this gap, to bring these two worlds together so that they can communicate properly, and that they all can, move forward in being able to use this as an offering. And I just wanted to mention one little thing here. If people who are watching this don't know at this point right now, when Ari and I first started doing CEC over now 8 years ago, the millennials were the youngest, let's see, they're 25 years old right now. Believe it or not, millennial age group is 25 to 40. So when we first started having this discussion, yeah, they weren't old enough to gamble. They were not old enough to wager, but now they're pretty old in that group. I mean, they're 25 to 40. What are their age? And they make up 23% of the global population.
I'm in that group.
So now you're missing, if you're in the gambling space and you're not providing anything for them. They all grew up on Nintendo. They all grew up with video gaming. They are gamers, okay? And a large portion of them, I'd have to say about 85% or more, are gamers. So you're missing that entire, piece of business. So when you start throwing all these other things in Las Vegas to entertain people, and you ignore this portion of the business, you're losing a lot. So it's time, it's time for them to get with it.
I think, it's a question though that, like where's the barrier to entry in regards to the gambling side of it. The gambling side of it is, well, if we're going to offer esports, we want to offer a main well-known game that the millennials and Gen Z, it doesn't necessarily have to be that. It could be the type of game, which is peer-to-peer or competitive or exploratory or just video gaming in general. And that could be offered too. I think the barrier is the gambling industry's disconnection between how do we make money on it? What's the math on this? Is this the same as a slot machine? Because if I put a slot machine on my floor and it's taking up that 2 foot by 2 foot space, I'm making X amount of dollars on that machine. Then the question is, if I do the same thing and I have like an arcade area where people can get money, how long is that person standing there playing that game? If they're standing there for longer than 5-10 minutes, I don't want, it's not making the money that I want, that I'm used to making. So casinos are used to making a certain amount of money, but take this and place this online, the same concept, there shouldn't be any barrier. It's actually much more affordable to an online casino that's doing it on the internet than it is on a brick and mortar. So with a brick and mortar, because the brick and mortars have such objection in regards to how much is that particular machine making me on a per minute basis, as opposed to online. Obviously, there's no physical space it's taking up except server space. And how much is that costing me? Well, it considerably less than a brick and mortar. So if there should be any businesses at this point that are looking to get involved in coming to the CEC and learning more on how to integrate this, it should be the iGaming people. It should be the sports wagering people as well. Because as Ben's pointed out, they don't watch baseball. So this is baseball season right now. So what are you going to offer those that 44% of millennials that are baseball players, but then there's the other percentage that's over 50 that aren't watching baseball. You lost them.
Well, now changing topics, one thing that we could discuss is technology. Well, there are a few terms, just as mainstream media is talking about this bubble and how it burst. A few topics are thrown around a lot of times. Many of them are like new words that are mentioned all the time, but what is true behind them? A few of them, we have the metaverse, VR, immersive experiences, and now artificial intelligence is dominating the conversation. It has become the next big thing. My question for you would be, and given the importance these terms also have for the gaming and esports industry, is how real are these technologies and the opportunities they promise? And in particular, would you say that the gaming industry, the e-gaming industry, are ready to leverage these changes, or are they running behind this evolution?
I think again, you talk about everything on the surface. So we talk about AI. Everybody, oh, there's Chat GPT. I can put in whatever I want. It's going to write me this article or that article, whatever. That's really cool. It does that. Is it? And then everyone hears those like 60-minute pieces on Google Mind and how it's learning on its own and all this other stuff. And AI is really scary. AI is a tool at the end of the day. It's not going to take over the world. And I can even tell you that 8 years ago when we started the CEC, I knew about AI at that point. I'd seen some things on Google Mind and what it was doing with a game called Go, which is a Chinese game. It's like Othello, but and it beat the best player, which has about 5,000 different move combinations that you can win the game at. And it played against the computer, and the computer beat the best player in the world in China like 3 out of 4 times. The best player in the world. So does AI have, when you directly compute the AI to do a specific learning task, which if you think about this for a second, if we're talking about AI, to delve deep underneath the surface, this can be a game changer, no pun intended when I say game changer, but it puts the favor of not being able to beat the house in the house's favor, meaning the house being the casino. If you have AI working for you. And I can tell you right now that I was at a sports wagering conference in May, and there are consumers that are using AI intelligence to wager on sports bets. And then they're making their wagers on sports wagering, the consumer is, or the bettor, and the bookie is still using, some guy in the back room figuring out the numbers. They're now at a disadvantage because the consumer has access to a tool, to technology that they're going to, not, I don't know what the stats are, but the percentage is way in the favor of the bettor. And then earlier I talked about, is sports wagering ever going to make any money? Look at where sports wagering is finally coming out of its space. It's coming out of only being legal in New Jersey, Las Vegas, and one other state. Now every state is adopting it, but you're adopting something where some of your bettors have access to AI and are using AI to make those wagers and being able to beat the house. Does the house have AI? I can tell you that I know some sports wagering companies that are being run by maybe 4 or 5 people today, and the entire thing is on artificial intelligence, which is great. But those companies that as B2B, offering that services on B2B on statistics and stuff like that are run on AI are not being utilized properly right now. We're still using old, sticks and stones to deal with consumers out there that are very savvy in regards to utilizing things like artificial intelligence. And when it comes to video gaming or e-gaming, that actually has to be part of that, part of the conversation. So if you're going to adopt an e-gaming platform on your programming, on your online casino or in your brick and mortar, yeah, you better have AI on there that's either tracking players, that's playing against the player. Because if it's not a peer-to-peer game, it's maybe an exploratory game. It's not, then yeah, have the AI make sure that it keeps learning faster and faster. And we're not talking about the mainstream games. We're talking about video games that have the ability to just learn on their own. Now you have an employee that's working for you that's sort of like your dealer at the poker table, but it's more in your favor because the AI program knows I'm going to be able to beat this person because I've been learning already. This morning I was a beginner. This afternoon now I'm a professional AI, bot that can beat anybody. So that's AI. And if you're not embracing it as a casino online or brick and mortar, then you're really going to miss.
Right.
You're missing a lot.
I think that also for people that are sort of fearful of AI, if you employ it, as Ari said, it's going to work for you to combat the things that you're actually afraid of. And we have to remember that, there are just nuances that us as human beings have that computers don't possess. And, you can obviously see, you're a writer, you can obviously see when somebody's using AI or Chat GPT or Bard or any of these other tools. It's obvious. They don't have the same kind of nuance that people do. And not only that, but we as people like that. Okay, we look for that. We look for those little oddities and things like that. So, you look at a lot of futuristic stuff and you see that, what's going to happen? We're going to put two robots in a boxing ring and bet on them. Okay, we can do that. But it's never going to be the same as two actual human beings who are flawed, who have issues. We know what the outcome of a computer is. You put in a certain input and you get out an answer. There's these two different worlds, and yes, AI is going to find its way and find its purpose. But at the end of the day, us as flesh and blood humans, until they control us, we do have certain things that separate us from that. So it's nothing to be afraid of in that realm. But it is going to play a very big part in all this technology is. They do have to employ it within the casino world sooner than later. But I'm going to go back to a couple of attempts that have been made that were sort of backwards. I'm going to say the skill-based area was very backwards in its thinking because they were creating it from the casino concept down, and it wasn't really resonating with the gamer community or how they wanted to play or anything else like that. And that's why these ideas have gone by the wayside. However, there is one that Ari and I work with, Next Gaming. I'm going to give a little shout out to him because they have a crossover. They have retro gaming in a cabinet that appeals even to young gamers. They like retro games as well. They remember their dad, their mom. They played Atari, all these things. And my brother and I were saying, as an expansion to this, those guys should also be in the online space. But they're sort of like the closest bridge right now or sort of the only skill-based, unless it's built from a gamer perspective up, that's going to sit on a casino floor.